Eamon Khan here for Seconds Out. Pleasure to be in the company of Gareth A Davies again, albeit over Zoom. Gareth, good to see you. Let's get into the boxing conversation first of all. We were going to talk about Shakur versus Teofimo Lopez originally as the start. However, there is some news coming out this week that, of course, Deontay Wilder and Derek Chisora are on the verge of announcing their heavyweight fight, which Tyson Fury is calling for a title to be on the line for that. We've seen Derek Chisora present his half of the bargain. Deontay Wilder's been a lot less public about the fight, but is your expectancy that the fight does go ahead?
Well, yes, with the caveat that Frank Warren has a not an official dispute yet, but is saying that he has saying that he has a contract still with Derek Chisora, and Chisora, or it's come out that Chisora and Wilder could have an involvement with KSI and the Misfits promotion and Kala Sauerland. Deontay Wilder's been a little bit quieter about it, other than being called on an Instagram post, a social media post with Derek presenting the contract. You know, Derek's the master showman with these things these days, and obviously he's playing fiddler and playing the tune here, Piper and the tune. That's got to play out. I like the fight. It means that Alexander Usyk's gone sideways. I think it's a good fight for Derek right now. I think 5-6 years ago, it would have been a very tough assignment against Deontay Wilder, and one that we might not have wanted for him, even though it was mooted back then. And I think Deontay would have been a big favourite to hurt Derek and possibly even knock him out. But I think Derek goes in, thinking of David Hay there suddenly. Derek goes in as the favourite against Deontay, and I think it's a brilliant 50th fight if it does happen in London in April. If Sky Box Office come back into it in a pay-per-view sense, it'll be good for them both. They're both standouts, kind of almost iconic figures of the era in terms of what they are in public standing. Obviously, they're well past their best, even though Derek's been magnificent in his late 30s. But obviously, we have the hangover of Deontay's come back and won a fight against a fan almost. A kind of a can, if you like, of a heavyweight, but suffered those catastrophic defeats really against Joseph Parker and Zhilei Zhang. But without cutting a very long story, I'm going around here short. It's a good fight. It's a good 50th fight for Derek. I liked the Fabio Wardley fight when that was first raised for Derek, but this is a more this is better matchmaking in lots of ways for him.
Yeah, David Hayes got his own public battles, or at least battles not concerning boxing to deal with right now, if you've seen that news, but that's a conversation for another day. In terms of both of those...
We're not, this isn't the Love Channel, so
no, it's not.
I will leave David's private life to David. I have spoken to him about it before, and he doesn't really want it in public, but you know, I know he's very happy with Sean, but yeah, I'm sorry to read that about him, because I saw him in Miami at the Jake Paul Anthony Joshua fight, and he was on terrific form. So I hope he gets all that ironed out.
Wilder versus Chisora. Tyson Fury said this is a fight befitting a title. Do you feel that? Do you think we'll get that for this fight?
No, it doesn't deserve a title. Derek is very high in the rankings and is close to fighting for a title. Should he say, well, if he'd fought Fabio Wardley and won the WBO, then I think he could have been in line for another fight with Alexander Usyk, another fight with Tyson Fury. But I don't think it befits a title. It doesn't need a title. Even though Derek is very highly ranked with, I think it's 2 or 3 of the sanctioning bodies now, and rightly so, because if Anthony Joshua had those wins against Wallin and who is it, Wallin and Joyce, wasn't it? Then we would be talking about him being in the frame. But Derek deserves a title shot. Deontay doesn't, given those 2 losses he suffered.
Let's say the fight does go ahead. Obviously, Frank Warren's got a play to play in that sort of sense. But the idea of Misfits Pro being on Sky, this being mooted to be a Sky pay-per-view, Sky coming back with a big heavyweight fight, of course. Derek Chisora has equity with the fans in terms of Sky and pay-per-view, and where his fights being broadcast on that platform. But that idea of KSI promoting it, the misfit scene having a strong heavyweight fight or fights traditionally on the card, coupled with some influence of fights there. Does that present a very unique package within the boxing realm, which Sky might look to push further, considering they have things like Baller League, which is traditional football, but with influencers involved? What do you think of that entrant into the scene right now?
Well, I think it's a very good way of putting it, that it's a unique event in many senses. I don't know, I mean, I think it's a fight that people will watch, but I don't think they're going to pay a lot of money for it. In a sense, it's not a true pay-per-view event, other than these two guys are coming to the end of their careers and have been stars of the division. It all comes down to the power of fans, the fan power that both men carry. I don't see it doing hundreds of thousands of pay-per-view buys, if I'm honest with you, but I like the fact that I think Sky will always dip their toes back into the water, never write them off. It's a huge mechanism still for events. Sky Sports box office, it's still there when the big events do occur. I think this is a medium-sized event. I don't think it's a giant event. I think, personally, as I said at the top, Fabio Wardley would have been a better, more resonant and relevant fight for Derek Chisora. This is like you say, it's a unique event, and if they stack it with different guys on the card, Darren Till fight, other people on the card that are going to draw numbers, then I think it'll work.
Do you think it happens with, and of course you've got to skirt around it a little bit because it could go to legals, but with Frank Warren stating on IFL that he has a contract currently with Derek Chisora, usually that means that there's got to be some sort of negotiation involved in the form of one side suggesting they have the contract, the other saying that they have it as well. That will play out either behind the scenes or further. But what do you think Frank Warren wants to do here? Does he want to stop the fight? Does he want to have some sort of promotional interest in the fight or some sort of promotional interest in the actual card? What do you think happens here?
Well, I mean, Frank's very strong on these things and has been for a long time. That if a fighter's under contract with him, then he's under contract with him. The dispute is over the timing, I understand. Derek says that they're out of contract in terms of time now. Whether Frank allows Frank obviously has a massive heavyweight stable right now. Probably the biggest heavyweight stable he's ever had. So whether he's happy to proceed this year and let Derek kind of go down his own highway and do that, that's another thing. But the fact that Frank's come out and responded to Derek saying he's out of contract means that they do need to get this over the line. And obviously, Frank's like great fighters, he's got a lot of pride and he sticks to his guns on these things. So this week, I'm sure we'll find out exactly where we stand with those two. And Frank may stand in the way of it if he has to. But Derek, pushing and prodding and persistent as he is, hopefully we'll get this fight over the line.
Before we move on to next week's action, what did you think of the Zuffa Boxing inaugural card? A lot of conversation surrounding the production, the fights that were displayed on the card. What did you think to their first entrant into the boxing game?
Well, it was clearly a soft launch. It was a gentle, soft launch. They weren't worried about big names on the card. The biggest name at the event was Dana White, followed by Opetaia. They were sitting in the plush seats. What did I think of the event? It was kind of like a small hall. Obviously, Merriweather on the card, Walsh on the card, bonuses for fighters. That was all good. I mean, again, last couple of nights I've stayed up very late watching these cards. It slumbered in places. It was like a next gen show, really. A small hall next gen show, but they knew it was a soft launch. Dana White admitted afterwards there's a long way to go yet. They've got two more events coming up very quickly. Jaya Pattaya is going to be on one on March the 8th. So Dana White's nobody's fool, and he knows that was an average show, and that it didn't deliver in droves in terms of excitement, even though the matchmaking was obviously fairly good on there. But I thought it was underwhelming, if I'm honest. And obviously on the broadcast, that looked quite slick, but there was a great oversell on what this great moment in history is. Look, I'm behind them being successful. I'm not fully in agreement with some of the things on the Muhammad Ali Revival Act, like the 6-year contracts, even though they want to. I think that's too long. And the fact that they're very homogenous in terms of uniform, in terms of what they were wearing on the night. There was, it was all Zuffa branding. I thought there was a little bit of over trumpeting from certain broadcasters, but that's always going to happen because they're working for the organisation and they want it to succeed, and they are part of the voices of that. But if I was marking it, I would probably give it a C plus. If you think of the tentpole events as A+A, T-Mobile, big event fights, it's Allegiant Stadium being an A++. It's probably a C+. There was nothing wrong with it, but it had a lot of eyeballs on it. Dana White brings a lot of eyeballs. Zuffa and the fact they're in the market brings a lot of eyeballs. But, it was nothing more than a soft launch.
You spoke to Jai Opetaia on your YouTube channel, which I implore everyone to check out. Good conversation with Jai. I think one of the first interviews Jai's done since
the first one,
he's signed to Zuffa Boxing. What sense did you get from Jai about the promises he's been made regarding his want to unify and gain undisputed that have been given to him from Zuffa, that he expects to be completed from Zuffa, and whether he does feel that he will get that from Zuffa Boxing? The feeling is that he'll take on Mika Lyon to unify the division. But do you think Jai sits, as you spoke to him, confidently that those promises will be delivered to him?
Yeah, thanks for flagging the interview. Mick Francis' promoter got in touch and said, would you like to speak to him? So obviously I wanted to. He broke his silence on the fact that it was time to move away from Eddie Hearn and Matchroom. He wasn't getting what he needed there. He wasn't overly critical of Eddie Hearn, but what he was thrilled and excited that he's now in Vegas. It's all new territory for him. He's not fought in America ever as a professional. He'd been there as an amateur. Obviously, he was a very decorated amateur, and he's from 4 generations of fighters. People forget that about Jai as well. He's steeped in this sport. I just think he's excited, and not only that, he's obviously shifted the goalpost, shifted the paradigm of what they'd set up originally in terms of them allowing him to become an undisputed champion and potentially hold 6 belts, the Zuffa belt, the Ring Magazine belt, and the other 4 sanctioning belts that we're very familiar with. So whether Mauricio Suleiman is going to acquiesce and let him fight for that WBC title against Noel McCallion, we're yet to see. Again, Jai won't be unifying on March the 8th. We don't know the opponent yet. They will announce that. He didn't want to announce that. He didn't want to break the code, if you like. But it looks like after this in March, McCallion, then the winner of Benavidez and Zurdo Ramirez for the 2 other, David Benavidez and Zurdo Ramirez for the other 2 belts. And then he says, I'm not going to hang around. I'm going to go up to heavyweight. He's clearly, if he wins his next 3 or 4 fights, and he's impressive as he has been for the last 6 or 7, Eamon, they'll move him up to heavyweight. And, as I said to him on the interview, you against Wardley, Dubois, Joshua, Parker, Hrgovic, that other Ajit Kabayel are all great fights. At the moment, I think he probably struggles even with Moses Usyk and Tyson Fury. I'd put them in a different band. But those other fights, you could really see him capitalizing and maybe even drawing some of those guys over to America. He'll obviously have to have a couple of warm-up fights at heavyweight. And as he said, he wants to put on about 20 pounds, 215, 16 to 20 pounds, which Alexander Usyk did over a kind of two and a half year period. So it's very exciting for him. And I found him very balanced and on form, even though we know he's got that crazy screw loose lunatic about him that we also love, which means he doesn't give a fuck when he goes into fights. And I love that about him, and he'll face everyone. I think he's a diamond in the rough for us in boxing. And I think he's the first of many big names that you'll see Zuffa sign over the next 9 to 12 months, maybe even including Alexander Usyk, Eamon.
let's wait and see as more information comes out on Zuffa Boxing and their signings going forward.